Most folks don't really like Max, but we guess that's something that comes with crazy success. But there's one thing no one can deny. He's not greedy or hungry for fame. In today's video, we'll talk about how Verstappen's current Red Bull deal might just be his last. We'll also talk about how Helmut Marko has stated that Lewis Hamilton is just half as good as Verstappen. So make sure to stay until the end. First up, Verstappen doesn't want to drag it. This is the problem with athletes, isn't it? They just don't want to retire. And this problem seems to plague those at the very top of their field the most. Look at Ronaldo, Tom Brady, or Fernando Alonso, for example. All three have been at the top at some point, and all three just keep signing contracts upon contracts despite being past their prime. But it doesn't seem like Max will go through the same problem. He's hinted that his current contract with the Austrian team might be his last in Formula One. If this is true, that means he's going to walk from the sport quite early, at just 31. For context, Lewis is 37, and it still seems like he's got 4 to 5 seasons left in him. Verstappen just became a double world champion, and he has a mega contract with Red Bull. It's going to go all the way to 2028, and it's the longest deal on the current F1 grid. This was a 5-year deal, on top of the deal that already ran to the end of 23. This happened when he won the 21 WDC with Red Bull. Hence, he wanted to stay with them forever. Verstappen stated that his deal was down to loyalty when talking about his current mega contract, and the fact that he was happy where he was and he wants to continue working with these people. He believes that this squad can be competitive for many years to come, but he's also admitted that he may not sign another deal after that, with Red Bull or any other team. Next up, what's going on in his head? Seems like he wants to go out on a high and be remembered as the greatest, but here's the thing. He needs to win every single WDC except one by the end of his contract to equal the two greats of the sport, Hamilton and Schumacher. Let's say he does that. He manages to become a 7-time world champion. Then what? Wouldn't he want to be known as the bloke who did something that Hamilton couldn't, which is to break Schumacher's record? So while it seems like he wants to be out of the sport early, we just think the need for more and more titles may take over soon. Max will be 31 by the time his deal expires, and he's not sure if he wants to keep racing in F1 beyond that, especially because the F1 wants to set the calendar at 24 races, but it keeps expanding. He might even try other forms of racing, like the Indy 500. But if that happens, he's going to absolutely obliterate any competition, to be honest. And while Verstappen doesn't seem to be too worried about the long as heck calendar, he does feel that the idea of too many races and being away too much could be a turnoff for him. He also seems to feel that if you're not prepared, then it's just better to stop instead of dragging it out too much. The 25-year-old also stated that he absolutely loves racing and loved the 21 season, in which he fought tooth and nail for the championship, but he also loved the 22 season, in which he dominated as we've never seen before. Up next, 21 may have something to do with him retiring early. See folks, this season was kinda really chill for the guy. He was so far ahead, he didn't need to worry about anything. But last year, well, that's a whole other story now, isn't it? He talked about how tough that year was, but he also acknowledged that things like this don't happen too often in F1, so he should be good. The point is, he's happy to make the commitment right now, but he's also aware that one day, he may decide that F1 isn't worth all the hassle. At least he's true to himself. After the last race of the season, he stated that he wanted to do other things and race in other disciplines. And while Max acknowledged that he'll be just 31, so he'll be competitive for a few more years, he'll want to experience other things and have a bit more fun. The 2-time world champion cited the sport's hectic schedule for feeling how he feels. Verstappen's also quite interested in endurance racing when his career at F1 ends. He's previously flirted with the idea of racing the Le Mans 24 Hours with Jos, his dad. He's also entertained the prospect of teaming up with Fernando Alonso, the 2-time world champion. It does seem like he can do it. He's been a regular competitor in endurance events in sim racing and sports car racing, and while he hasn't denied his interest in other forms of motorsport, it's mainly endurance racing that he's most interested in. But even for that, he acknowledged that he'll only do it if he gets a competitive car. Let's learn more about his interest in endurance racing. Well, he said that he doesn't really want to rush into the whole project because there are too many changes happening in the sport. He'll eventually want to join when he feels that it's more settled. And while he wants to be in his prime for when he moves into that world, he does have time. Because here's the thing, in endurance racing, age is less of a barrier than in F1. This means that he can make the switch, even if he stays in F1 beyond 2028. Now will he renew his contract with Red Bull? A key factor for that will be how competitive Max and the team are in 2028, assuming he doesn't leave before then. It'll also depend on his personal circumstances, like whether he's going to prioritize his career or his family. family. And the guy's already one of the most successful drivers in history, and he's already in an elite club of just 17 drivers to have won more than one world championship. And with 35 wins, he's already 6th on the all-time win list. Even if he leaves the Austrian outfit now, he'll be regarded as one of the most successful drivers of all time. He has a chance to win at least 6 more championships with Red Bull right now and dozens of races. But it seems like Mercedes is starting to recover, and Ferrari's making changes. So how long will this era of dominance truly last? But if it does last, he'll have a shot at being one of the most decorated drivers in F1's history. But it's Max. He's particularly not that worried about statistical success. Even when he won his first championship, he stated that he had achieved his goal now, so anything more would just be a bonus. However, another factor we need to consider is his competitive instincts. If his team is in fact competitive, then he may not want to walk away, especially if he knows he can beat the record of Hamilton and Schumacher. Of course, this is all hypothetical, assuming Hamilton doesn't make a comeback, which he's really trying hard to do. So, we'll have to see how next season goes to get a better idea of what's going on in Max's head. Finishing up, Lewis Hamilton is only halfway to the level of Max. See, a lot of what he just talked about in today's video is about Max and his desire for more. But that's all useless if Lewis makes a comeback next season and then stays in form. Oh, and yes, another factor is that the W14 is absolutely nothing like its predecessor. Now, of course, given the current circumstances, Max and Lewis have been compared a lot. Like a lot. And Red Bull bosses, of course, have insisted that Verstappen is the far better driver. Despite the cost cap issue and the race control issue last year, Max is considered the grid's outstanding performer. But then again, it's Hamilton that holds the joint record for the most titles in the sport. Helmut Marko, the Red Bull consultant and the man blamed for the team's toxic culture, stated, "There are only 2 drivers in F1 who are halfway to the level of Max. They're Charles and Hamilton. Verstappen drives with more confidence, more overview, and better tire management. He rides longer on a soft tire than rivals do with a harder compound." He also claimed that Max is more confident from the get-go. From the practice session to the first lap of the race, his nerves are extremely calm. He even stated that when it's wet, he's 2 seconds faster than everyone else on the grid. On the other hand, Christian Horner has compared Verstappen to Vettel, who won 4 titles with the Austrian team. He's claimed that the two share the same hunger. But really, folks, what's Marko on? Max is great. You could argue he's better than Hamilton. But twice as great as him? Isn't that a little too exaggerated? That's a wrap for this video. Do you guys think Max will stay in F1 beyond 2028? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos.
Sergio Perez coming at his teammate. There's Lewis Hamilton and George Russell down the inside. Leclerc through from Verstappen.
Well, I think overall, we've been trying a few things around here, to see how the car was behaving. I think I was
well this time, as does Sergio Perez. Leclerc, little slower, getting off the line, and he's already been passed.
Things with the car from FP1 to FP2 to understand if you could do things better. Some worked, some didn't.
Go, Perez does get away well, comes over to cover off Leclerc. Carlos Sainz is forced to the outside. Max Verstappen get...
Net nadenken over, als ik hier nu een foutje maak of ik rijd nu de muur in, dan...
Look at this, top 4 then, almost nose to tail.